to everyone who accepted our invitation and are here today at this webinar that we are organizing thanks to the site project, our standard project site, especially big thank to the lead partner, University of Trieste. This webinar is actually the second round. It's because a site already organized a first webinar on universal design applied to sustainable tourism. This time we are speaking about effective universal communication. So the principle of universal design applied to communication. Again, like as I just said, to thank lead partner for their availability and for sharing their knowledge, which we believe in the program is very useful to all. It's basic. Especially important for people dealing with communication, project communication in their everyday life and work life, but more generally, it is important to all because communication is the basis actually of human relationship. So why universal design is fundamental actually in communication? Well, because it ensures that information is made accessible, understandable, and usable actually by everyone, regardless of their ability, language, or background. And so this is key to us, especially when we are talking about communication in EU-funded projects, because often they're not that easy to understand and communicate. So that's why it's important. And I think that, yes, this is a way to enhance really engagement, transparency, and also to leverage the impact of the projects you are all working at. So there's going to be a last intervention, the closure today by our head of MA, Ms. Silvia Comiati. So she's joining us later on today instead of right now in the morning. And I wish you success for the webinar. And I'm very curious and I look forward to learn about what you're going to explain today. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much, Cristina, for the nice introduction. So my name is Lorenzo Castelli. I'm from University of Trieste. I'm the leader of this site project. But first of all, there will be a very short presentation on what the site project is. But first, which is similar to those who already attended our first seminar in February, we would like to know who you are, basically. And for this reason, let me see if I can now share my screen. We would like you to connect to this Mentimeter pages, and if you can join, and there will be a few questions that you see. There are just 5 questions that we would like you to answer. As soon as you answer to the first question, then it goes directly to the second question, which is, you see, in which field do you work? And these are the replies so far. And then you ask also, do you work as a communication manager on a European project? So far, not too many. And have you ever heard of universal design before this webinar? People, yes. And then, if yes, have you ever heard of universal design in your work field? So exactly right. So these are just a few questions just to know who you are, which is your background, and without making too many questions and so on. So, okay, we wait a few more minutes for that. And it seems there is only 13 people so far, so please go ahead. And here we have 11. Okay, let's continue because I think that you have 13 people that are stuck with that. So let's continue now. So first of all, let me thank you again for being here today. As I said, my name is Lorenzo Castelli from University of Trieste, and we are the lead partner of the site project. As we said, it's a standard project of this Interreg program 21-27 in the culture and tourism for sustainable development priority. We started last year, 1st of March, and we plan to finish by the end of August 2026. So it's a 13-month project. We have 8 partners. 2 of them, the lead partner here is University of Trieste. We have the city of Šibenik in Dubrovnik. In Šibenik, of course, the city of Šibenik. Then we have 2 partners in Dubrovnik, which is the DURA, Dubrovnik Development Agency, and the Dubrovnik Airport. Here in Trieste, we also have Central Market Intelligence, which is an SME, and we will hear from Caterina Vidulli, which is the CEO of this company, later on a few presentations. And then we have the municipality of Fano in the Marche region, and the Faculty of Tourism and Hospitality Management on the University of Rijeka, again in Croatia. We have 4 partners from Italy and 4 partners from Croatia in 6 different locations, because we have 2 partners in Trieste and 2 partners in Dubrovnik. So this is the composition of the partnership of the consortium, and we have also 3 associated organizations, which is the Croatian Union of Association for Persons with Disabilities, the Šibenik Tourist Board, and the Forum of Adriatic and Ionian Cities, which is the acronym is FIKE. What is SITE? SITE is a project where we would like to enhance, to improve the appeal of tourist destination by disseminating and sharing the culture of universal design, in order to, on one side, make the destination more accessible and easy to reach and to live when you are there. And this way, we can also diversify all the tourist flows, as we try exactly to include a more inclusive tourism ecosystem. So why this? First of all, because as everybody knows, we would like, especially for people who might have some kind of difficulties, to have the right information, to have the right services or the facility at the right time. So it's important that everyone can access this information in the best and easiest way. The other reason is that the demand for accessible tourism, we know, is increasing. So, and this is a huge business opportunity. Also because, this is the last point, we can try to overcome the over tourism, which is a huge problem both in Italy, in Croatia, and in many parts of now in Europe at least. So we try to divide the tourist flow, also because sometimes people who have some kind of difficulties might have more economic possibilities. So and they can have also this. We can try to provide some additional services, and they might be willing to pay for that. And one of them is perhaps not to go in July or August, when we have to make our steering committee visit in Dubrovnik. We were told, okay, this has to be done at the very latest in April, because otherwise we cannot even walk in Dubrovnik town, in the old town during the summer month. And then, of course, if you have family with children, if you have older people, or if you have any kind of disabilities, you simply cannot go during this month in these locations. And these kind of problems are more and more frequent in our area and beyond our area. So there is, and then there is the right for everyone to access the tourist destination in the best possible way. So to make this study, we want to test our approach, which is exactly based on this universal design paradigm in 4 locations. So we would like to see how we can make better accessibility to some historical monument in Šibenik. We have to work how to make some museum more child-friendly, and this is in Dubrovnik town, the Palace of Rectors, and also to improve the airport usability, which is very important when you have to travel. And the test case will be in the Dubrovnik airport. And finally, Fano, we're going to see how you can redevelop a waterfront here again to make it easier. In Fano, there is the sand, so this makes things easier, of course, but how you can make this waterfront more accessible and easy for everyone. So we made the visit to this pilot site. We completed the first visit, where we collect and we see all the requirements according to the universal design paradigm. And then now some interventions based on our visits are going to be implemented. And then we will go to make a second visit and make also some training for the stakeholders, for the tourism operator, and it's a public event. And this will be in the last period of the project. So basically, will be in spring 2026. We are also participating in a number of events which are related with the project, but also try slightly outside. So we see there is a lot of interest in this kind of activities. And so you see, we present this project at the 9th User Annual Forum. We were invited to the Crossing Italy slowly event in Brussels. So we attended a conference in Oslo. So we also participate to this Adriatic Sea Forum. And we have this two webinar. In red is today's webinar. We made, as we said, another one before. And we are going also to participate end of month in Split to the Path Atlas, and there will be other events in Trieste for sure, and in Opatia where we're going to be the final conference. And here we have to still to fix the date, and maybe some other events will appear. At the beginning, we made the application form. We were not predicting so many events and activities. But it's fine. So it's a very nice opportunity, I think, for everybody. And one of them is the today webinar. So the idea exactly. So we one thing we would like to do exactly is to improve the accessibility and inclusivity within the tourism sector. And we have some case studies, as you can see, but there is many other applications, of course, that you cannot even in the tourism sector. When we just a nice, I would say, for us, it's a nice fact that happened. So when we decide the title for this project, okay, why side? Because it means shaping inclusive tourism experiences. This is a good idea. And then in Oslo, there was at the end of 2024, they did this conference on universal design in general. And one of the application is tourism, but it can be universal design in education, for instance, or in other fields. And the name of the conference was Shaping a Sustainable, Equitable, and Resilient Future for All. So we are pretty much aligned with the I would say, the research, the academic main trend of this new paradigm. We just had the opportunity to make a review. There is just so far only a few papers per year applied to this, which applies universal design to the tourism. So in the previous webinar, we explained in detail what universal design is. We are not going to repeat this today, but what we are going to make now is to understand how we can make communication easier, more accessible, and for everyone. And this is why mainly people which are related to the communication side of the projects of the programs have been invited, plus some others. So after me, there will be, as I said, Federica Loro from Visit, which is a company based in Venice, and this is one of their core business is to understand how to make easy languages. So we will see from her, there will be 1 hour presentation, and that will be, I'm sure, very nice, how to communicate in a more accessible way. And this will be, which is very important, because when people start planning a trip, the first things it's you go to the website, you need to understand this. So and all the other things which are related to the communication are going to make it it's fundamental when you plan. So then we have two speeches by Caterina Vitulli, which I said is CEO of the Central Market Intelligence, which is a company making exactly market intelligence, and here in Trieste. And also Caterina is the communication manager of the site project. So, and they are taking care also of all the communication and dissemination part of this project. And finally, we are going to have Elisa, which is a postdoc here at University of Trieste, and we drive some suggestions on how to be more inclusive to everyone. So I will stop here, and now I would say, unless there is any question, so please you have the chat, and if there is any questions or comments or whatever, you can write it in the chat, and we'll try to take this on board. So I will stop here, and I will leave the floor to Federica, to his presentation, Easy Language Skills, how to communicate in a more accessible way. So thank you very much. Okay, so then we can move on. I see it is already the slides of the next presenter, which is Caterina Vidulli, which is the CEO of Central Marketing Intelligence, a company based here in Trieste. Caterina, she will tell us a few words about her company. And it's another site partner, as was Visit. And then Caterina is also the communication manager of this of our project. I will leave the floor to her. We are amazing on time, which is quite unusual, but we are perfect like. So I don't want to waste more time and let Caterina start from the very beginning. So thank you very much. After Caterina, we'll have a break of 15 minutes, and then there will be another presentation from Caterina Vidulli, and the last one from Elisa. But as also Federica said, so if you have at any time you have any question, we have a chat, so please put, and we try to answer either now or in the next days. So thank you very much. So Caterina, please go ahead.
Thank you, Lorenzo, for introduction. And yes, we divided the presentation into two parts. The first about effective and accessible communication through text, images, and videos. And in the second part, we're going to look at the different channels we can use to broadcast, to distribute these text, images, and videos we produce. So in the site project, yes, we are in charge of the communication, but also the research part of the project, since in Central Marketing Intelligence, we are a marketing intelligence company first for all. So we wanted to start with some data. Why accessibility really matters. So why should we care about everything we are talking about today? The first point is a lot of people, unfortunately, have a form of disability in the world. So 1.3 billion people in the world. And in Europe, 27% of the population, of the adult population, have a form of disability. That counts more than 100 million Europeans. So the distribution in the different countries is not so homogeneous. So there are some differences among the countries. But what's the same in all countries is that it increases with age, of course, but also in the other age groups. So in the different age groups, there are people who experience a form of special need. So accessibility also in communication is very, very important if we want our message to arrive to all the people involved. But it's not just something we say, it's a minority, so we don't care so much because it's just a minority. It's not. It's actually 1 out of 4 people who need some attention. And the evolution of communication, so today with all the communication means we have, actually this evolution open up new opportunities. Now people with special needs can actually access more content, more channels. They can participate like never before in history. So this is very, very important, but it's our responsibility to make it possible, because there are a lot of means for them to experience better communication, since there are screen readers for people with visual problems that convert text into speech. There are real-time translation possible, or LIS systems like Visit provides. So people with hearing problems can in real time access some translators who can help them in the moment. So it's very easier for them than it were before. And there are now artificial intelligence systems that can turn audio into text automatically. So they are going to evolve in the future, and they can be used in moments when translations by people is not accessible. There are Zoom magnifier software for users who are not blind but have some problems with vision, and there are simplified keyboards, so the possibility to move just clicking one button for people with musculoskeletal problems, or also eye movements to use keywords. There are also apps that offer different support, so apps for any kind of problem, also people with cognitive problems, so applications that can access content and translate them as the person needs. There is the possibility to add all the different text like titles for images. We are going to see it many times in the presentation, and the websites are even more compatible with all the technologies, and so there is a wide choice of channels to help everyone choose which channel is better for them. But the problem is that all of this is not working if we are not thinking before about what we are producing. So if we are producing the content as in the past, or without thinking about all of these problems, then most of these tools cannot work. That's the problem. So screen readers cannot work if we don't add some text. We're going to see it where. Or apps cannot access our websites if it's not made in some ways. Or the content we publish on social media that people with different problems actually use very easily, but our content can be a challenge for them. So it's very, very important to think before, to think about our communication to be equal. And so we need to think in the terms of a universal design. At the end, we're going to summarize all the different principles with all the tips. But universal design has 7 principles that think about not creating differences between different groups, but making everything we are doing, and with this presentation we are talking about communication, but making everything accessible for all. And so in communication, we have 4 different dimensions. One is text. The first one is text, accessible text, accessible images, accessible video, and audio. So it's important that all of them that compose the communication, any communication message, it's important to plan them from the beginning to be equal and to be read, to be viewed, to be listened from different channels and from different perspectives. So now we're going to go deeper into each of them to understand what we can do to plan it better when we start creating our content. The first one is text, of course, and we already seen text from the perspective of a meaning of a content, so how to make it simple. But it's important how we can read it when it's written in the right way. So of course, as we already listened to, it's very important to use short sentences, but not just firstly because it's easier to understand, but in the second reason is it's easier to read on a screen. If we use a very long sentence, even if it's simple or it's a sentence with different smaller sentences, but it's very long, it's very, very difficult to read it. And also people without any problem, they can kind of stop reading if it's too long online. And online, the problem is more, the problem increases on digital screens, but it's also important also on paper. So using short sentences and using visual ways to make it very clear. So headings, bullet points, and small summaries. Avoiding jargon, we already spoken about that. And of course, making the most important parts very, very easy to find. So in case of projects, objectives and results, for example, so why we're doing this and what we get if the project is going well. And so make it easier for people who are going to address a very long article, a newsletter, a website, understand what's in there for them, and make them happy to read it. So the first part of any text is the most important one, and the presentation, so how we can actually read the text, it's the second point. In fact, it's very, very important to choose the right fonts. So for headlines should be very large, and they should be short, just few words, and very easy to read. So the fonts for headline, actually, it's possible to select the one we prefer, since the text is very large, so it's not a readability problem. but you can see that there are differences in different fonts. So when there is, in this case, the weight of the different letters is optimal for readability, while in other situations, the different weights, you can see there is a thick part and a thin part. For some persons could be a challenge to read, so it's better to use a very naked, we can say, font. And when the dimension decreases, it's very important to choose a perfect font, and it's better to use a sans serif family font, the ones without all the elements here. This is a with serifs, and this one is sans serif. You can see the differences. It's easier, quicker to read. Or this is with serifs, like the small fancy parts here. Serifs actually improve readability on paper. Someone says improve on paper, but not for everybody. So it's there is a sort of war between people who prefer serif and sans serif, but actually online on websites it's better to use sans serif. On paper it depends, but it's actually better to use sans serif. Never use unless for titles, very fancy titles, fonts with like this, very, very fancy or decorative fonts. So they can be used only to present in an image a title with just a decorative mean. So on body text, the minimum size is 1214, and it's never. Every time we look at content, we see that people use lower characters because they want to add more text, but actually it's better to not to reduce the dimension. And it's important to use line spacing, so not create a wall of text, but with space, with a line length of maximum 65 characters. What's another important thing is that it's important to align left the text, not justify the text, because it's harder to read the justified text. Even in presentations, if you justify the text, then the eye cannot find spaces to read properly. So most people justify text because they think it's better fit, but it's not. And it's very important to create a hierarchy, not just a visual hierarchy. So to use a larger title and then smaller titles and the body text, but also use HTML tags, meta tags, to technically make the systems understand the importance of the different titles. This way, the screen readers can understand which one is the title, which one is the second title, and so on. So to help navigation. Otherwise, if you just use different sizes, but not this is for websites, of course, not for social media. On social media, we cannot use the tags, but on websites, it's very, very important to create a heading hierarchy. Otherwise, it's not possible for screen readers to move properly. And then the last but not least, the importance of contrast. We already spoken about that, but it's very important, since if the background and the text are too similar, it's impossible to read, and on screens it's worse, and for some people it's even worse. So you can understand properly which are bad or good examples. The importance is to have at least a 4.5 to 1 ratio between the background between the text and the background, and the simpler the better. So how we can be sure that our contrast is okay? There are some software that's called Adobe, for example, color contrast analyzers. There are a lot of different softwares, and it's very, very easy to use, since it's you just have to to find the color you're using. So now I can show it to you. So if you're using on your website, on your image, if you, for example, are using this color for the background, then it's not possible to use white. So you need to use a color that at least reaches 5 in ratio, contrast ratio. So you need to look at the different colors, and if you already picked the color, you just have to find the color number, add it here, and see and verify your contrast. There are also some Chrome extensions you can download, so directly when you are in a website or on your graphic editor, you can just click on the extension and move on the screen and see the number of the colors and the contrast between the colors. So there are many ways to verify this. So no justification if you use it in the wrong way. Actually, okay, let's go back to the presentation. And actually, something that very often is not properly done. Sometimes we are obliged to use some colors, so we stick with that colors, but we need to find a way to make text accessible. When the dimension of a text is higher, it's the dimension, for example, of a title, then it's less important that the contrast is above 4.5. But for body text, so small text, it's absolutely mandatory. Going on, we switch to the short form. So text content, but in short form. Short form is used for the so-called copy on social media. So it's not like a long text on a website or in a report, in a presentation, in a project presentation, but it should be shorter. So on social media, it's better to use also emoji. So it's easier to understand. Emoji has bullet points, so it's easier to understand the different parts of the text, and so people can choose which part to read and which one is less relevant. And then use hashtags to help the content spread, and also to help understand which is the most important part of the content. So what's the content about? So what's this about? And if you don't know about that, I can click on the hashtag and find other different posts about the same content. Then the phrases, of course, should be short and direct, even more than in the long form. No relatives or complex syntax, because it's not needed here. And also on social media, it's very important to use the text contrast rules, because otherwise it's not possible to read on the images. And on social media now, the images are also used to create the carousel, so many images to like a sort of small presentation. So on the images, it's very important to use the text contrast rules. In fact, it's important not to add too much text on the images, because it's not readable by the eye, but on images, text is not readable by the screen readers as well. So if we add text on an image, we know that people who have vision problems cannot properly view it. So the solution is to add a textual explanation on the post, of course, but also to add the titles of the images, and we are going to see it in the next slides. Now, other tips are about the content of the images. So on the images, of course, if you are in travel, if you are publishing about travel images, it's very important to show diversity, but also in the normal content, adding images that are real, but are not perfect, but are showing normal people, and also people with different problems, different ages, ethnicities, abilities, different families, create a sort of affinity with the content. So it's something that we suggest, and prefer the flat style modern illustration. Makes it easier to understand. So yes, of course, it's possible also to use photographs, But if you want to show something in a simpler way, then the flat style, it's very, very accessible. Then to help people understand images, and not also people, but also the technical systems, the alternative texts are the most important element. So alternative text, it's technically the title of the image describing the image that can be read by the different systems like search engines, like the social networks as well, the social algorithm, and also by screen readers. So in each social network, the feature has been added recently to make it possible to add alternative text to the different images. It's something that most people don't know how to add. So we're going to explain in each social channel how to do that. So as you can see here, even if in this post we have 7 images, we can add a title on each of them, explaining what's in the image. So for example, in the second image, there is an image with a text and a piece of data and a figure, so we can see representation of facts, 16% of the population, etc., etc. So even a screen reader can understand what's in the image, and the image can also be indexed. So so Instagram in this case can understand what's exactly in the image and then make it accessible. So on Instagram, how to do that? When we are publishing the new post, in the last part of the editor, there is this accessibility, sorry, it's in Italian, but it's an accessibility area. And in this accessibility area, every image we added is shown with a text space. So we can add the title here. On Facebook, it's not the same. So when we publish a post, we should go to modify edit. If it's a carousel, like in this case, so many images together, you should go to edit everything here, edit everything. And for each image, we can add a text. And so we can also add an alternative, we should click to alternative text here, and we should add not just a text for the image, but also an alternative title for the image. It's tricky to find. On LinkedIn, it's on the bottom here, there is this icon Alt. And so adding Alt, we can add the text of the image here. I know it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work because it's very long to add all the text, and we also should think which language we are adding the text. English, yes, as we've seen before, yes, we can use English, but then not everyone is, of course, English speaker. So at least the screen reader reading English could translate it. Yeah, but if a project, in this case the project is for 2 countries, it could also be possible to add the text into languages. Then the screen readers are going to read all the text so in different languages, but at least it will be easier to understand. At the moment, we are using the English language in this case, but it's something we should think before. So who is going to read this text? Should I add it if I am publishing in Italian? Should I add it in Italian, or should I add it in English, Italian and English, or different languages? On X, so the X Twitter, it's here. It's the edit button here on the image, and then we can add a description. It's not so edit here, then on clicking on Alt here, and so we add a description here. There's also an explanation why alt text is important. So they're actually saying yes, use it. But another difference is in some social channels, it's possible to add also later the alternative text, but on X, it's actually not possible. On LinkedIn, it's not possible. On Facebook and Instagram, it's possible. So if you forget about that, or if you want to change them, the titles, it's possible, but on X and LinkedIn, think about it before. On YouTube, it's possible. On YouTube, we have subtitles, so we're going to see it in later. Okay, so that's that's something we should never miss. Third type of content, it's video. So video content, it's has new challenges, but it's easier for more groups, because it's the video content the idea of a video is to show in an easier way to understand than a long text, for example, or text and images. It could be, usually for most people it is, for some other people it's not, and of course it depends on how we created the video, of course. So it's important to add also transcripts or summaries in the video descriptions, and offering alternative ways to understand the content if a video is not the perfect format for the user. So for example, in the description, it's possible to read the full article on a website with a URL. So if they don't want to view a video, they can find a text, or on the other way, if it's better to view it on other social channels with images, it's possible to add the URL. In the video, when editing the video, avoiding flashing contents, the translation between the parts of the videos, with the effects, adding effects with lights that are so pop but not easy for sensitive people. Using a clear visual narration, so not just background music or text, but understanding what we are seeing and why. So creating a story, so it's easier to follow, and also people want to arrive at the end of a video. And also in video, of course, pay attention to the contrast, because sometimes text overlays are not readable. So it's very important to follow the 4.5 to 1 rule also on video. And then, of course, add captions. And captions can be in two different forms: open captions or closed captions. Open captions are the captions that are always visible on the video. So it's not possible to eliminate them, and are burned on the video track. So there is no control. The viewers cannot turn them off. And so they're ideal for social channels where it's not possible to add subtitles otherwise, but not on other platforms. For example, on YouTube, it's better to have the other form, that is the closed captions. So the viewer can choose the language, if there are more languages, and can choose if to enable them or not to have them. So it's more flexible, and usually it's better for the position of the text on the video, and are also readable by screen readers. So it can be readable, like it's possible to have the subtitles read like a text, so translated as a text. So it's better on YouTube, for example. It's better to have them, and also on Vimeo, or if you're using video embedders in your website, it's better to have them closed captions. While the open captions, like titles, can be added otherwise, even if there are closed captions for important sentences. So in the video there is a quotation, a very important sentence, then you can use a text on the video. But then on long formats for YouTube or embedders, it's better to leave closed caption videos. And the closed caption videos on YouTube, for example, on YouTube, it's possible to add them in the subtitles area. YouTube is going to create a version of the subtitles anyway, but then going there and clicking modify, it's possible to modify the text, to copy it, and using ChatGPT or other LLMs, it's possible to give all the text, translate the text, check, of course, if the translation is correct, and then publish it again here, adding a new language. So it requires time, but it's something that's easier than before, when we had to write everything with different timestamps. Now the social networks can help us synchronize the text with the video. There are also some other a lot of applications we're starting up every day, like Caption AI, Opus, CapCut, whom starting from a video can help us create the open captions or also closed caption to export. So no excuses. Today everything is possible, so we should think about all these possibilities. And then last, the audio content that is a perfect format to include who have visual impairment, of course, or people who are on the move, so it's better for them just to listen to something. And of course it should be clear. The audio should be good quality audio. The speech should be clear with a neutral accent, without jargons or also here. And it's easy to understand if we cannot create as in a text the headings, the subheadings, and the parts of the content, and it's more difficult than in video to move into the audio track. So it's better to create some cues like, okay, we start with that, now we'll move to the second part, and it's also possible in the description of a video to explain the different parts and add the time frame when the content is going to be presented, so to enable the listener to listen to the part they prefer. And it's also possible, we suggest to also transcribe the audio and add it as a description, for example, on a website or in newsletters or in the format we prefer. So just concluding, summarizing, universal design in communication, it's very, very important, and following the 7 principles, we can plan the content correctly. So the first point is to be equitable, and I really like the image of a revolving door. So everyone can use it in the same way. There are no differences like you should use the back door, but if we use a clear, easy to understand language, if we enable the screen readers functions, if we plan the structure of the content correctly, then everyone can use it without any problem, and they don't think like different. The flexibility in use, so we should always offer alternatives, and there are many alternatives today: text, audio, multiple languages, simplified versions. It should be simple and intuitive. We have spoken a lot about that, so structure it in the simplest way, not in the fanciest way. The 4th principle is perceptible information, so the information should be easy to read, good contrast, readable fonts, caption, support screen readers to make everything perceptible. Tolerance for error, that's the 5th principle of universal design. Also in communication, we should include all the options. So on a website, of course, we should plan it to come back easily, but on content, we should make the viewer, the reader, understand what they should do. So why they're reading that, what's the call to action, so-called, so what they should do after they read our content. So it's very easy to not to think about that, to forget about that, but it's very important to think in advance what should the reader then do. So follow us, and go back and after the video and so on. Low physical effort, so we should think it's possible for people who should do low effort to navigate. So we add all the titles, all the tags, and then appropriate size and space. Of course, it's very easy to understand what that means in communication. We should ensure text, images, and videos that can adapt to different devices. So the format of the pictures and of the videos. And in each screen, it should be possible to read the subtitles if we added, for example, open captions. So every time we publish something, we should think that true accessibility starts when we see our content through the eyes of the others, because the most powerful content is the one that no one is excluded from. So I want to leave you with this quotation. Since the next time we are going to publish something, before clicking publish, think about that. Think is it really accessible to everybody, and did follow all the 7 principles of universal design. So if you have questions, I'm here. And then in the second part, we are going to have a proper look at the different channels we can use to broadcast our content.
Okay, so thank you very much, Caterina. It was very interesting and insightful, I think. So we are going to provide a really clear overview on how we can make things easy and accessible to everyone.
Can I kindly ask Caterina one thing about, first of all, your presentation was really very, very useful. I learned a lot. And I wanted to ask you, you also mentioned some tools we can use for instance, checking the color contrast, or all the tools you mentioned. Are they free of use, or do you have to? Are they for pay? I mean,
Good question. The Adobe color check. Yes, the check is free. So yeah, there should not be any pro versions. Then if you want to have it integrated into our like Adobe platforms, I think there's something, but you can access it without an account. I think it's a tool they provide. There are also other interesting tool. Adobe for content creation also offers tools, 3 tools. There's another tool in the same area. Then Adobe suggested you the best colors, not just the ones with a ratio, because the ratio is at least visible, but then it could not be pleasant to see. Yeah, so these are free. The editing apps like Caption AI or so on, they have different plans. There's some free versions. Some of them have a free account with limited possibilities. Like, for example, the video should be 1 minute. If it's longer, you should pay. Then there are some plans like 9 euros per month, and you can edit 10 videos 1 hour longer. So it depends on the plans. For the translation of the subtitles for YouTube, that gives you the first transcription. That's free. Since if you publish a video, even a 20 minutes video, for example, the video of this webinar, if you upload it on YouTube, then YouTube is going to create the first captions with some errors, of course, but it's it's improving every day. So that's free. Then if we go there, we take the text and we translate it with other tools. So for example, ChatGPT, the free version, it's okay. So we can start with that, translate, and then check if the translation is correct. So if we start from English, we can translate in Italian, and then so it's quicker. And then we read it to understand if it's correct. So that's free as well. Depends on the tool you're using. If you want to actually translate longer text, longer audios, you have a meeting or a podcast, just an audio track. You want to have it translated into text. There are some tools. For example, Transcriptor is one. We can add in chat the link as well. And this Transcriptor, I think it's free for 3 contents per month. Then you have to pay, but then you can ask not just to transcribe the audio into text, but also to translate in many languages. And so actually the tools are cheaper and cheaper every day. They're not, as I said before, no excuses, since today it's very easy to find ways to do what in the past required days of work. Now you can do it in 10 minutes. So things are quite different and easier. But anyway, the planification is the planning. So we should start saying, okay, we want this content, we want to create a content, and then we want to use it on different channels. Now we're going to speak about that. And so we should start thinking how we can make it complete. So which tools should we use to make not just a video, but a video with a text, with captions, with a description, with an article, and images for the social media. So amplify your project online. So you created the perfect content. Now, how to broadcast the content. So strategy and channels that work for each audience. Of course, it's possible to organize a workshop of 3 days about this this topic. So, of course, we're going to give a brief introduction and sort of a compendium. We need to do to amplify not a project or any kind of communication we need to perform. So, first of all, why communication channels matter? Because diversifying communication help us reach different audiences. We're going to see that there is not a clear rule which channel for which audience, because everyone has different preferences, but each platform or tool has different formats and its own accessibility features. So for people who prefer a format over other formats, it's better to use different channels. And so choosing the wrong channels means excluding people unintentionally. If we just create a text, or we create an image post without title, without alternative text, without titles, without summary, then we are excluding someone, even if we didn't want to do it before, of course. And a multi-channel strategy is the only way to ensure that there is a sort of redundancy. So cross-format redundancy, it's something that someone says, but if I publish the same content on different channels, it's redundant, it's the same thing. Yeah, but in fact, the fact to have different ways of accessing it, a different way to read it, and also to understand it, even for persons without any problem for that specific type of content, it's better, because we're going to digest better the information. And if they're not interested, simply not interested, they're not looking at it, they're not going to look at it, they're not clicking, because maybe they already seen something on other channels, but the message will be reinforced. And so providing multiple ways to access the same information, it's the perfect strategy, especially when we have different stakeholders. And the reason we are communicating is not just to promote a brand, for example, but it's to disseminate. So to make persons who are not aware of what we are talking about actually understand the importance of a project to be performed with it. So multi-channel strategy, what does it mean? It means creating a sort of map of different platforms and creating links between them. So this is an example of multi-channel strategy map. So we have the official website in the center. Since the website usually it's the center where the project is explained, so it's the heart of a communication. If people wants to better understand what we're talking about, they go on our website. They should go there. They should know that they could find everything there. The other channels are like satellites that helps the people, the users find our website actually, or that can help betterly digest a sort of very long content on the website that they are not interested in. So cross-referencing improves user experience, increases engagement, and ensures that your message reaches everyone, actually. Everyone that can be reached. Not everyone. It's impossible to reach all the internet users, of course, but this way we are spreading the message. Okay, so which are the differences between the communication channels? Because when we plan the map at the beginning of a project, we should say which channels we want to activate, because actually it's not possible to activate all the channels in the world. So which channels should we create, for which purpose, to reach who, and what should we publish on that channel. So there are tables, so I know it's not so easy to read them, but tables we can create to understand the differences. So why we're going to use the channels. So websites, the difference is, for example, in purposes, is that website is the center information hub. So for people searching online information, for people who wants to go deeper, it's the most important area. So we keep it updated. Then social media are for awareness, so to spread the visibility where the people are, because website is just for people with it's called the active demand, in the active demand phase of their knowledge process about our topic. So they are in the phase where they're exploring, they're looking for something on Google, or they want to read more. But most of the time, 99% of the time, people are not in that phase about their project. I think 99.999. So they are just living their life. They're scrolling on social media. They're enjoying their free time on social media. And so through social media, we can impact on them, create awareness about the project, and make them want to go on the website to look for more information. And we want also to engage them. So it's not always the reason to impact on them to have them go on the website. It's also to make them understand what we're talking about, engage, click like or comment, or do something more in expressing that they actually read the content of the video. Then we have a newsletter that's updates direct to someone. So it's very specific. It's a form of one-to-one. It's one-to-many actually, but it looks like one-to-one. I receive a newsletter by email. So it's another channel that could be important, but of course it's necessary to create a mailing list. So there are some difficulties here, but it's the channel to keep posted who is very interested in knowing more over time. So it's another important channel if you want to work on that. But if we create a mailing list, then we must send something to them. So it's a decision we should take. Then the printed media, of course, like newspapers. It can also be online media. So it's the purpose is to reach a local public. TV and radio, television and radio, it's for mass reach. So trying to reach a broader audience who's there and down. Actually, on radio, yes, you can change station, but they're there listening, so we don't skip. Events are meant to create direct engagement, of course, to educate people who come there. And then YouTube, of course, it's education, nurturing. It's a place where people look to longer videos since they want to learn something usually. So that's the main purpose. We should understand. It can be kind of different in some specific project, but it's general. And then we should understand the key content that goes on that channel. Then we are going to go into each channel later on, but this is a sort of overview. I think it's important to a complete understanding of the differences. So the key content on website are, of course, articles, long text, news, updates, PDFs that can be downloaded to know more. While on social media, just small pills, engagement content, polls, questionnaires, what's really engaging. On newsletter we have text, so longer text, but we can also have links, brief news, and also small pills. Printed media is text, of course, but also images. It's very important to have images on printed media. TV radio, it's storytelling, because people should be trapped in our content even more than on social media. Events, of course, presentation materials, and YouTube, webinars, longer video, education content. So different formats, different content, the same content, I want to explain, for example, the 7 principles of universal design. Okay, on the website, I can publish in a report about that, a very long format text with a lot of details. On social media, I should do carousels and small videos. On the newsletter, I can send every month one one email about one of the 7 principles, for example. On printed media, I can explain the importance. On TV and radio, I can create a sort of different pills. In an event, I can also have when people interact about them and create a sort of brainstorming about the principle. And on YouTube, I can upload the webinar. We actually did it when on an event we explained the 7 principles in detail. So who is more interested and wants to view a 20 minutes video, then can do it. So very different ideas. If I published the long videos on social media, it could be less effective. If on YouTube, now there are shorts also in YouTube's, but if on YouTube's I just published images, it's also possible, but it's not the right place, and so on. And then the third thing, I think this part is kind of known because it's the basis for every social, not just social, but communication expert. Then there is another point. So who is going to have a look at the content on that channel? So website is for the general public, also for authorities, for example, in projects. Social media, yes, general public, but also specific stakeholders. We're going to say how students. So if you want to reach a younger, but not only younger public. Newsletter is for subscribers, for partners. Printed media, TV, radios for general public. Events for stakeholders, students, and YouTube. Actually, yes, all audiences, but the audience that's already engaged, who wants to know more. And then we should ask, yes, but which groups are more facilitated for that the channel? So the website is better for people who use screen readers, because it's the content it's in one format, it's a text, so the screen reader can just read the text, while on social media, yes, it's possible to use screen readers. But if we have short contents, the titles on the images, if we added them actually, and so on, it's more complicated to jump from one part and another. On the website, they can find all the information together, so it's easier. And also for people who prefer just to read, they don't want to listen to anything. While on social media, it's easier for people with mild cognitive disabilities because the platforms are familiar, the content is quick, and there are a lot of images. So for them, it's better to understand the key concepts and not long text. Newsletters are better for elderly people because they receive the text in their area, their space. They read it, so they think every mail is very important. The text should be clear, of course, and readable, but for them it's easier to receive a text about something than going on the website and find it by themselves. Also, printed media, it's something that's more for non-digital users. TV, radio, or audio, so it's the radio, it's more for visually impaired, of course, or people with low literacy should prefer looking at the TV when they're just digesting what's presented. So it's easier to reach also that part of the population. And of course, events are for students and stakeholders. And if the event is very participated, it's also possible to include the people with cognitive problems, having them interact and creating the event in a way that's easy for them. Because in that case, it's possible to, and we're going to talk about it later in the last part of the webinar, it's possible to plan the event also to include them. And then, of course, YouTube, it's for people who prefer video or prefer to read the subtitles and have images. So it depends on the different problem, but also cognitive impaired people actually use YouTube a lot. Then the last group. The last point is which groups need more support on that channel, because the website, elderly people could be not so familiar, and so it's necessary to be clearer. It's necessary to use, of course, the screen reader the screen reader titles. And so for each group, it's very important when we use that channel to also understand, okay, I use this channel because I think I can reach these groups, but I know someone cannot be so happy about that. So what can I do to reduce the problem, or to make them understand that there is another way for them to reach the content? So another channel. For example, if I publish a video, I can also write on the text of the video, yes, on the description. It's possible to find also the report about that if you prefer, and so on. Or for elderly people who wants to follow the project but are not so familiar in coming back on the website every month, would you like to register to our newsletter? So everything is going to be provided to you, and so on. So think which groups are more facilitating, and which ones could need support. So let's go very quickly into each channel, the most important channels, to understand the key points. I think most of them have already been visited today, but just to be clear. So the strategic goal of the website is to be the one-stop source of information, the reference point, so the center, the heart. Usually it is the heart of our map, our strategic map, and should have the place where accessibility and transparency are better explained. How to do it? Use a clear information architecture in projects. The website it's already provided, and it's made in that way with a homepage and the about, news, events, contacts. So it's already prepared. It should be completed, but the information should be added. Integrating multilingual content if possible, so not just in one language or using English, but then explaining how it's possible to translate if it's not your language. Now with the automatic translation, it's easier because the browser is going to translate just through Google Translate. But if it's not activated, it's necessary to explain to the person how to do that. So it's just a text that should be added on the text. So if you want to read it in your language, just click there. And then I already said that many times, but it's important to use SEO logic. So add all the meta tags, all the headings, the correct headings, and all the alternative text, so that the website is actually accessible to everyone, to screen readers and to search engines. Why the website is strategic? Because if we create interesting content in the website, so we share insights, we update news and events as much as possible, but not just saying, okay, we did that, but what's in it for you? So why it's interesting? So you should rethink the content, not just stating bullet point about what happened, but why people who invest their time in reading that can learn something, can take something for their life. So I think that's important, and we've spoken about that before, but now the LLMs, so the artificial intelligence chatbots, can help us if we cannot see that that point so clearly. So if we have a sort of bullet points of what happened, we can ask to the chatbots, okay, this is what happened. I think can you help me? What's interesting about that? How can we derive some value? And they can help you, because otherwise the texts are very boring actually in the projects usually. And then it's important to design for visual and structural accessibility. So even if the structure of a website is that, so there is a page when we can add the content, that's it's okay. In that page, we can do a lot. So we can do it correctly in the wrong way. We can just add a wall of text, or we can create it with the right headings, the right images inside the text, and so we can help that text being actually read. We can facilitate navigation. We can use links. to move to other pages. To if, for example, we add a market research, then we can add all the sources, so to know more, and we can make the user go out on the social media to follow us, to be engaged. For example, do you want to answer to a questionnaire? Go on our social media to do that, to follow us. So also the website can be not just the collector of the traffic, but people who discover us on the website then can be sent to the social channels according to their preference. So do you want to do a video about that to understand better the, for example, universal design principles? Go on YouTube. Do you want to understand who are the partners and discover them? Go on Instagram, and so on. So it's necessary to have it as a bidirectional source of information. Then, second point, social media channels. So to raise awareness, why they help us in raising awareness? Because in an organic way, so even without paying, without advertising, it's possible to reach a wider audience. Of course, it's not so easy, since if we publish one post, one content, or content that is not so interesting and no one is clicking on that, then it remains unseen, just us and our friends. So it's important, of course, to create content that can be shared. That's it's very important. Then it's the best way to reach the general public, because as we have seen, every different target group use social channels. And then we can create a very differentiated communication. We can add images, polls, videos, and whatever we want. So on social media, and it's easier, and we can do a lot of pieces of content. So that's the point. We can be more direct. We can be more funny and engaging. The point is different targets. Each social media platform attracts different users. Actually, we try to find statistics about that. So how many people for each group is using each social channel, but it's not so easy, because it depends. It depends on the special need, and there are no studies that can actually say this social network is just for. And I think it's better, because it means that everyone can find the perfect way for them to use a different channel and the different content. But there are some kind of general rules. So Facebook, it's widely used. It's still the most used platform online on social, as a social channel in the world. And it's especially popular among users aged 25 and above, but it's still the most important one. Instagram is favored by younger audiences. But yes, now still there is TikTok. We have not added. Yes, we added also TikTok, but TikTok, it's for even younger users. Then there's LinkedIn, that's used by professionals and as a different mean, as a social network, and it's ideal to reach specific stakeholders. X, that's more for real-time news discussion, and it's used in a portion as 18, 20, 49 as an age range. Actually, it's less used than Facebook and Instagram, but the people who uses it at very very active. Now there is also Threads, that's like X, but it's from Meta, Facebook and Instagram. But yes, X is still more used. Then we have TikTok, which is highly popular among Gen Z, and it's actually reaching. It's reaching not just Gen Z, but it's used also by also older people, because it's quicker to use than the other social channels. So selecting the different social channels, it's the first point, and then understanding where we're reaching in that channel. Okay, so let's go directly. Then there are some other points like families. It depends also on the topic. So in traveling, for example, as an example of different context, in travel, families love using Instagram and YouTube, for example, for travel inspiration. We can find studies about that. So if we want to communicate in travel and we want to reach families, then the best platforms are Instagram and YouTube, for example. If we want to reach the elderly in travel, they should be reached through offline information and online information, Facebook. So when we have a different topic and we want to reach groups that mix age, family situation, and special needs, then we need to find out which is the best combination of channels that in that case is better for us. And yes, for each group we can find which is the best social channel according, of course, to the different content format. So people, as we've seen, elderly people, Facebook is better. People with disabilities, depends which disabilities, of course. But if we think about cognitive disabilities or visual disabilities, it could be better to listen to a video, for example, on YouTube. And a longer video, it's easier than many short videos, because then at the end of a short video they should understand if the next one is okay for them or not, and so it could be not so easy. Then according to the target group we are reaching, there could be differences. For tourists, for example, it's better to use Instagram and YouTube. If we want to use higher education professionals, then of course LinkedIn, X could be okay, also Instagram. If we want to reach public authorities, then LinkedIn, it's the best one. Facebook, I would say, also YouTube to show what's said in the webinars and events, what are actually the activities that are performed. And for each channel, there are some rules, like Facebook, for example, is used by 3 billion people monthly. So not just in total, but every month 3 billion people use Facebook. And videos are very important, so 90% of daily posts. So it's important to add the subtitles for video, as we already seen, to add links to know more on a website, for example, and it's necessary to post regularly. Otherwise, it's not possible to be found. Sometimes it's also useful to advertise a little bit the post to be seen by a wider audience. We have alt text for images, and it's important to not use image-only posts, because image-only posts are less seen, or text. Image-only posts are, if you have an important updates, are less easy to view by everyone. And then yes, we can. What's interesting to share? Event summaries with photos or videos, like what has been done in an event. Publishing stories about testimonials, volunteers, short videos, and linking to long-form content. So it's the way to discover that there is a long-form content, and then promoting calls to action, like participate in a survey, there is a public consultation, or there is an event, come to the event. Yes, I think I don't have time to go so deeply in each content, each channel. We just look at the accessibility points for the other channels. So for Instagram, there are alt text as well, and it's possible to include captions. And Instagram and also Facebook, but on Instagram are more important. There are also the stories. The stories makes it more real time, and they can be used to increase awareness even more, because it's possible to share a content we created, a normal post, to share it as important today, and it's possible also to share it in our stories for a content that's published by the project. It's something I should have said before. Remember when we have seen the map? the map of the website and of the social channels. The social channels, for example, in this case of a project or of a brand if you're promoting a company. Then we should think that there are other maps, the maps of the partners or the collaborators or everyone who is very involved in the project or in the brand and can help share even more. So for each of different channels, we can create new maps from the other partners, for example, that help us share that channel of the project or the brand. So on Instagram, that's possible using stories. So if a project publishes a post about something that's very important, an event or a new video, all the partners can share it in their stories. So the partners' company page or also the partners' people's page, so who's collaborating actively on the project, can share the post in their stories, reaching their friends, the people who are following, their followers. So it's a way to amplify even more the message to people who can care about that. So that's very important, and we invite you to suggest that, because spontaneously no one is going to do that. So when you plan your map, then you make everyone actually involved in the project understand the map you created. So these are the channels. We are using that for this reason. So please help us share in your ways according to what are you actually doing. And so on Instagram, stories are very important, and Instagram is very it's important to share personal stories. It's really about engagement and being connected, even more on Facebook. So using stories, it's a way to amplify that to people who care about what you actually care. While on LinkedIn, it's kind of different, since it should be more professional. So the content could be longer. We can use descriptive titles and headings in the post. So we can also format the post, add, of course, alt text in the images, and add documents. So it's very important to share milestones, outputs of a project, researches, and every document that can be disseminated, should be disseminated actually. And on LinkedIn, the sharing, the increasing of visibility is easier even than Instagram, since people who care can just like, and then will share it, or can even share it with comments. So even on that channel is very important, and the advice is to use it also to directly interact with the people who are very important. So to tag them, or to write, to find them, follow them, and then write as private message. We are working on this project. I think it's very important for you, since you are working in this NGO, you're working in this institution. So what do you think about the project? Follow and share. And so it's a way to connect directly to people who are in a specific position. Also, Instagram can be used for that, to follow the channels of other projects and the channels of people who are working in specific areas, but it's not so easy to find them, since there are no titles on Instagram. But it's possible to create communication, bi-directional communication, also on that, writing in DMs explaining the project. On LinkedIn, it's easier, so we suggest to do it on LinkedIn. Then on X, on Twitter X, then it's important to add descriptions and to use images, yes, but mostly to create PLs with text. So it's important for real-time events, during an event, publishing what's going on. So the key points. Share also data. Data are shared by people on X, and also share when we have a new video, when we have a new report that's or a new piece of news on a media. It's very important for example, a newspaper. It's important to share it on X. Then on YouTube, it's important to have subtitles. We already said that, mostly closed subtitles. and it's the perfect place to publish the methodology of the project, the goals, everything that's been created, even in details, even with long videos, but not just leaving one very, very long video of a whole event, the whole webinar. Otherwise, no one is going to view it till the end, or is going to see 3 hours of video. No one is going to have a look at that. It's necessary to edit it, to divide it into small pieces that make sense. So about a specific content, specific key point that the viewer can bring home, as you can say. And it's very important also to add in the description the chapters, what's inside, so people can decide if to have a look at the video or not. Okay, then last we have a digital and offline PR, media, TV. So there are many different channels that can reach other groups, and not just who's on social media or who's looking for information on the website. And the point of using also these channels is to increase the credibility, because they are more official. It's not just you publishing about yourself, like on social media, is that you have your own channels, but on media, on TVs, it's called earned media. So media that are talking about you, but it's not exactly you. And when they decide to write an article about you, even if you are paying, because sometimes on the magazines it's necessary to pay, it's not free, but being on that magazine makes people say, oh, okay, they published the interview about the project, so it's more important. It's not them speaking about them, but it's someone else who decided to publish. So it's kind of a more trusted message. And so having both of them, both social media, website news, and digital PR or media PR, offline PR, it's very, very important. And if the medias are local, for example, if we want to broadcast the fact that there is an event in a specific place, then the local media usually cover it without any charge. So it's very important to connect with them, because usually when it's as we have seen, when it's something that from the European Union, they're very keen to publish it, even if sometimes in small portion of a page, but they want to promote it. For brands, it's different. There should be a sort of news about the local area, but it's very important also when you're published on a newspaper, then you should bring that image of a newspaper also on social media to say we have been published there, and so it will reinforce the credibility on social media as well. So of course, what to do when you publish on a newspaper? You should use plain language. You should add images. Very important. It's very important, but the images should be relevant. And then send it, not promote it online, but also send it to communication centers, to every stakeholder that could benefit for knowing that the magazine, the newspaper has been published. And the final point is, when we want to publish something on a newspaper or on a magazine or some online magazine, we did an interview on a podcast or on a radio, we should make it newsworthy. So not just saying, okay, we're doing that, but what's the point? Which are the key figures, the main data about that? Why we're doing that? Who is benefiting from that? So not just a plain news that no one is going to remember if they read it, but make it newsworthy and make them want to know more. That's the key point. And last, measure and optimize. Optimize, it's the key point. So we should test. Is it working? Is it working? Are we having impact? To optimize the strategy, we should monitor the key indicators, but not just the impressions. So how many times a post has been viewed, because the same content, the same video, the same image could be seen 10 times by the same person, but the reach, so the unique users who actually impacted into the content. We don't need to just look at the followers. The followers are even less important than in the past, because people look at content, view videos, but then don't follow. So it's better to use the reach as a KPI. Then the engagement, of course, the likes, shares. If there are comments, it means that people are caring about that. Then the clicks, so especially on social networks, don't just go on the reach KPI, but go down in the analytics area and look at the clicks, so how many actually read more about that and then did what you wanted them to do. So go on the website, know more, download the content. Yes, and then offer ways to convert, so download the PDFs, complete surveys, and track the conversion. So which content was able to derive conversions, downloads, or people subscribing to a webinar, and so that way we can understand what's working and if we are actually reaching the goals. Of course, if we have specific goals, we want to reach specific groups for some content, then we need to understand with them if the goal has been reached. So I want to leave it with a last sentence. So the real power of communication doesn't lie in the tools. The tools are just, they're not the mean, they're just the strategy to reach our goal. That is the ability to reach every person. And so we should build bridges, not barriers, choosing the right channels that make sense in our project. So thank you. And if you have any question, I'm here for answering.
So thank you very much, Caterina. I think it was really, really interesting, and you provide a lot of insights for our audience. And time is running, so I will leave the floor to Elisa Bertolini, which is a postdoc here at University of Trieste.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us today to this discussion on accessibility. I want to share two essential parts with you. First, some practical suggestions for making your events truly accessible, whether they are conference, workshop, training sessions, or even social moments like lunches or dinners. And second, I will discuss tools and technologies that can support this mission. We won't be able to cover everything in depth today, but I will give you the essential building blocks to get started. When we can say an event is accessible. An event becomes accessible when all conditions work together harmoniously. This means services, technical solution, organization, and management must ally to allow any person without any form of discrimination to learn about, access, and dynamically interact with what we are offering. Think on this way. An accessible event gives everyone the possibility of active participation. It creates pleasant, fulfilling, and satisfying experience in conditions of comfort and safety, regardless of each person's specific need or abilities. This foundation three pillars of accessibility. Accessibility isn't a fixed state, it's not something you can achieve one and forget about. It's about continuous process built on three fundamental dimensions. First, structural accessibility. This is about physical access. Can people get to your venue? Can they move around the space? Can they use all area, including those we sometimes forget about, the cloakroom, cafeteria, restroom, even backstage area? Second, access to experience itself. This means people can truly participate, enjoy, communicate, understand, and fully experience what you are offering. Is not just about being present, it's about being engaged. Third, access to information. People need clear, reliable, and up-to-date information about accessibility, features, and available services. and this information must be delivered through communication tools that everyone can actually use. So, when to start? When we should start thinking about accessibility? Here is something crucial. Accessibility begins at every very moment you have your event. Is not an afterthought or last-minute addiction. It must be woven through every phase, from initial planning through realization and ongoing management. Making event accessible doesn't really require massive financial investment. What is required preliminary attention, foresight, and commitment to inclusion through comprehensive accessibility planning. This is a dynamic journey. The quest for full accessibility is a journey and not a destination. It's constantly evolving, and you often can achieve perfect accessibility for everyone right from your first event. There is no magic recipe that will instantly transform your event. Accessibility must be integrated across all phases and shared by everyone in your organizational chain. Your event becomes progressively more accessible when it results from appropriate collaboration and good practice in working together. Who is in chair? Remember, the visible event is just one tip of the iceberg. It's lie in complex network of choices, deadline, evaluation, compromises, collaboration, and coordination. For effective accessible event management, it is recommended designate accessibility contact person. This should be someone specially trained who can make informed decisions, coordinate with suppliers in the public, and consider usability requirements across all aspects of the event. Communication event is absolutely essential. You must communicate in a way that is clear, unambiguous, and not redundant. Help a visitor understand how to navigate your space, what services are available, and how to access them. It should also proactively communicate about potential elements that may constitute a physical or perceptual barriers. This isn't about discouraging participation. It's about enabling people to make informed decisions that come prepared. What it's need? Let's break down what people need from accessible event. They need to know that the event is accessible through correct, reliable, and comprehensive communication. They need to be able to access, move around, and navigate your venues with effective signage orientation system. They need to guarantee access to information and communication in multiple formats. They need to actively participate in your activities. They need safety assurance, especially in emergency, and they need sufficiently trained staff who can address any difficulties that arise. This is a practical to-do list. For the next event, consider these key areas: location, space and route, staff training and alignment, mobility and rechargeability, wayfinding system, equipment selection, catering accessibility, promotional materials, ICT solution, safety procedures, and workshop activity. Accessibility. Special attention must pay on digital tools and sensory disabilities. When choosing digital tools, remember to select ones that are compatible with assistive technologies like screen readers and braille display. This enables visually impaired users to navigate and interact without difficulty. But also beware of the digital divide. Always provide traditional alternatives alongside digital options. This supports people who may be less digitally inclined, older adults, for example, and accounts for practical issues like smartphone running out of battery. Inside, we are learning from our experience. We developed the surveys and questionnaire to gather stakeholder feedback, providing both and digital printed versions. Preparing tools and analyzing data takes longer, but it is absolutely preferable to excluding participation. Not having alternatives automatically exclude people who, for various reasons, might not be able to use just one option. Here are some final practical tips. I share you these guides for typography and visual design. Use legible font with appropriate signs, generally nothing smaller than 12 point for print materials and equivalent size for digital displays. Prefer clean, uniform backgrounds rather than complex pattern or image behind the text. Choose to use a few well contrasting color. I want to recommend these excellent resource. Adobe Colors Accessibility Tools provide free online resources to check that your color choice meet established accessibility reliable requirement. In this case, the text is in the same color, but only changing the background. The difference is important, and also the tool itself give you some tips. Additionally, the Universal Design Conference Guide offers comprehensive template example for creating both accessible presentation and clear oral presentation. These tools take westward out for design decision and help create materials that work well for everyone. In conclusion, we remember that creating accessible event is not just about compliance or checking box. It's about recognize when we design for accessibility, we create better experience for everyone. Thank you for your attention today, and thank you for your commitment to making events that welcome everyone.
So thank you very much, Elisa, for this last suggestions. So I would say from our side, the presentations are over. As someone asked, I will repeat, all slides will be made available for the participant under the webinar from the JS Italy-Croatia, as they have the mailing list of all those who participate in this event. If Mr. Silvio Comiati, as he's here to close the meeting, so Cristina, I let floor to you now.
Yeah, let me thank you for organizing this second event that was as the first one was very participated, and I think it's a very good sign for our program, because this kind of initiatives and joint work between the program and the project for us is, I would say, one of the purposes of our job, and one of the things that make us more proud of the work that we do. So I'm really glad about this second event that was organized, and I would like to thank in particular the project site for organizing this event, the panel, University of Trieste, and all the other speakers that intervened today and made it possible to share these important concepts and knowledge that you manage so well, and that I really hope will become a joint kind of know-how for all our projects and our program. I think the topics that you've been discussed are very enriching. For one of the things that for us, I would say of utmost importance, which is the project and program communication. We are working hard on it, because not only because the European Commission is asking the programs and the projects to be more visible and more effective in communicating, but because we really think this is a crucial aspect of project management, which is I would say essential to make the results, to make the good practices, to make the achievements of the project known and used by stakeholders and actors in the program area. So for us, it's really not something that we have to do, but something we really want to do in a proper way, in an effective way, and to add a specific point of view to make it work and useful for all types of users and audiences that we can have.
I would say, is a step forward in making the communication even more inclusive and effective for our program. So I would really, really want to thank you for your contribution and for sharing your approach. And I think we are in a very good way to be all more careful of the needs and I would say and the different points of view that we can have in our program area. And I think we have to keep that in mind. Not only when we implement our projects, but also when we communicate them. So thank you again very much. We are very much looking forward to meet you in the next occasions, in our program events, why not, and in your project events. So we are, for all the projects, we try to be as present as possible in your events. So I'm sure we will meet soon in one of those. Thank you very much.